Once she wore a book, she became the cruel and ruthless villain in the book. In the end, not only was the throne seized, but he also died tragically in prison. Thinking of the various tragic situations that followed, Song Liang resolutely decided to be a good person and stay away from Qi Chen. So she quickly joined forces with villain number 1 to drive away the male lead. But just as she was planning to succeed, a thing claiming to be a sadistic system appeared. System. You must reach a B outcome with him. So, the Empress of a country personally rode out of the city with 1,000 elite soldiers, just to pick up Chen and return to the capital. Qi Chen has been feeling a bit strange lately. Why did the foolish ruler suddenly pay him daily attention? He tried his best to control his emotions and spoke coldly towards her. But she doesn't care at all. The male protagonist, who is a ascetic and powerful official, has fallen in love with me. Keywords of the novel. Dressed as the mad critic Empress, favored by the powerful officials of the Yin dynasty without a pop-up window, dressed as the mad critic Empress, favored by the powerful officials of the Yin dynasty. Download the complete text. Dressed as the mad critic Empress, favored by the powerful officials of the Yin dynasty. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Long live the desperate lord. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Long live the desperate lord. In the first year of Tian Shan, Empress Song Liang ascended the throne. In June of the same year, the Ministry of Works reported in a letter that Yuheng's Langzhong Baiqing had developed a fire-fighting vehicle. It is said that when launched, it can instantly flatten a radius of 1 mile, making it the most powerful firearm to date. Before Yuheng could submit the drawings, news came that the drawings had been stolen. Bai Cheng's whereabouts are also unknown. Song Liang immediately ordered the blockade of the entire city and ordered the northern town governor to investigate this case strictly. In less than half a day, the governor of Beijing gave Song Liang an explanation. The governor of Beijing issued a decree to be imprisoned. The woman dressed in a long brocade robe with crow-blue weaving, golden silk, colorful clouds, and dragon patterns stood with her hands down, looking out at the rain outside the window and listening to the conversation in the compartment. I will only ask you 2 questions. Firstly, who instructed you? Secondly, Bai Cheng. Before Wang Ji could finish speaking, he was interrupted by the person on trial. Wang Ji. His tone was suddenly filled with disgust and mockery, overflowing with words. Is there no one left in the vast North Town Governor's office? Send a eunuch to interrogate me, who is disgusting. This person is Lu Jin, the Minister of Works who stole the blueprint of a fire chariot, as instructed by the Jin Wei to Song Liang. Obviously, Wang Ji didn't take his words to heart at all. His face remained calm and he continued to ask, secondly, where is Bai Cheng? As he spoke, he walked towards the various torture tools placed beside him and began to focus on selecting them. Lu Jin had already noticed those torture tools. Who knows the means of issuing a decree to imprison? These torture tools alone can torture people to death. But now, Wang Ji is using all the tools of torture against him. It's simply not human. Do you still want to torture me? You eunuch, you have the ability to kill me with 1 blow. What kind of man are you using these insidious tactics? Wang Ji ignored him and picked up the iron brush on the table, standing there without saying a word to play with it. This is the iron brush that carries out the punishment of grooming, the iron brush that brushes away the skin and flesh of living people one by one. Every time Wang Ji moved it, Lu Jin's heart trembled. Really? I'm really afraid that you won't succeed. You're not even a man, you dare to threaten me here, I'm sorry. Before he could finish speaking, a mournful and sharp voice came out. It was Wang Ji who, at some point, picked up a short blade and cut off 1 finger of Lu Jin's left hand with extreme sharpness. 10 fingers connected to the heart. Lu Jin was in excruciating pain and screamed incessantly. Unexpectedly, this was not over yet. Wang Ji swung his sharp blade again, without blinking his eyes, and then slashed fiercely towards Lu Jin's bloody left hand. 1, 2, 3. He didn't stop until Lu Jin begged for mercy and gave him a satisfactory answer. Sir. I'll do it all. I really don't know about Bai Cheng's whereabouts. I'm only responsible for stealing the blueprint, and I really don't know about the rest. As for the person who instructed me to steal the blueprint is General Lu Yuncheng. Lu Yuncheng. In the compartment, Song Liang rubbed his hand on the Bodhi bead and paused slightly. Where exactly went wrong? How could it be him? She was thinking about something suspicious when she heard Wang Jigong's voice say, Your Majesty, do you have anything else to ask? The screen was slowly moved, revealing the upright woman's true face. At first glance, her appearance was not stunning, and coupled with her unadorned charm, she couldn't be included in Lu Jin's list of unparalleled beauties. TSK. An empress, but that's all. Unexpectedly, as soon as she spoke, Lu Jin immediately changed her mind. I don't have anything to ask. Lu Jin's life will be kept for the time being. And these torture tools, I see, they look strange and terrifying. Let's withdraw them all. This is not a peerless beauty, it is simply an angel on earth, a living bodhisattva reappearing. How important was the construction of a fire chariot to Song and Liang? He committed such a great crime, and the Empress could spare his life. She also removed all the tools of punishment. This is not a foolish act, what is it? Encountering such a foolish ruler is truly a misfortune for the country, and it is also a blessing for Lu Jin. If it weren't for the fact that he was still under the watchful eye of the prison people at this moment, he would have raised his arms and shouted. Long live the foolish ruler! Long live the foolish ruler! But the next moment, he became foolish. Song Liang glanced at Lu Jin and saw that he suddenly had a smile on his face, full of spring breeze, almost unable to burst out, and rolled out his white eyes. Fortunately, she immediately remembered her current status as the Empress and tried to restrain her silence and disgust towards Lu Jin. She whispered, Cut it off. Ah. Upon hearing Lu Jin's question, Song Liang smiled and explained to him lightly, I mean, palace punishment is enough. Damn it. The image of a foolish angel collapsed instantly, and Lu Jin went crazy. After leaving Beijing Fusher, Song Liang led Wang Ji straight to the general's mansion. This was her first time entering the general's mansion, and to her surprise, it was not as luxurious as she had imagined. Instead, it was extremely simple, even with a hint of depression. As for making it so shabby, it was rumored that the Empress of a country had mistreated his first-class general. Song Liang couldn't help but ask, didn't anyone withhold General Lu's salary? Upon hearing this, Wang Ji was momentarily stunned and looked up to see the layout of the general's mansion, directly understanding the meaning conveyed by the words of Song and Liang. Your Majesty is joking. General Lu is a pillar of our great Zhao, and he has made outstanding military achievements. The court has bestowed countless rewards, and no one dares to withhold his salary. General may not like luxury on weekdays, but your Majesty can rest assured that the layout of the general's mansion has nothing to do with the court, let alone your Majesty. Upon hearing this, Song Liang remained silent and looked at Lady Lu, who had hurriedly arrived. She exchanged a glance with Wang Ji and immediately lowered her face. The Holy See came to welcome her, not General Lu, but Lady Lu. General Lu really doesn't regard her as His Majesty. After Lady Lu respectfully bowed, she stood particularly upright, with a calm and unassuming appearance. Your Majesty, how could you have the opportunity to come to the general's mansion today? Song Liang looked at her picture of a dead pig not afraid of boiling hot water and shouted coldly, What's wrong? General Lu is busy with countless things every day, even busier than me. Your Majesty is here to look for something at the general's mansion, isn't she? Mrs. Lu's voice was even colder than hers. Before Song Liang could speak, she continued, Yu Han lost something. It should have been the responsibility of the Ministry of Works. What is the connection with our general's mansion? Seeing this, Song Liang couldn't continue to act anymore. You're quite frank, he said. Madame Lu looked at Song Liang without fear and said, there's no need to beat around the bush. This thing is not in our general's mansion, and it has nothing to do with our general's mansion. Your Majesty has come to the wrong place today. Song Liang met her gaze and asked, where is General Lu? My husband was seriously injured in the Battle of Yi City. After returning to the capital, he fell ill and was bedridden for some time. It was really inconvenient for him to get up and greet His Majesty. I hope Your Majesty can understand. She used the word forgiveness instead of forgiveness. Song Liang ignored her and was pondering how to meet Lu Yuncheng when he heard Lady Lu say again. If Your Majesty has nothing else to do, please return to the palace as soon as possible. By the way, my husband asked me to remind His Majesty, after all, you are a precious person. It's better not to go to some places in person. If you go to that dirty place today, you may be laughed at by many people in the court tomorrow. She has issued an order to expel guests, and in her words, she is secretly mocking Song Liang for personally going to prison today. As soon as she left the Imperial prison, Mrs. Lu was able to keep track of her movements without leaving home, and even dared to openly tell her that she was secretly monitoring her every day. What a Madame Lu! That's really bold. Song Liang looked at her coldly and said, although the imperial edict is for prisoners, it is also for the use of the great Zhao kingdom. Whether it is dirty or not is not up to others to judge. It is also a national matter for me to go here, why not? Why do the courtiers laugh at me? Madame Lu's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. Seeing Song Liang's angry expression, she immediately bowed and said, I made a mistake. Song Liang didn't want to deal with her, so he turned around and left. Wang Ji paused for a moment and left a sentence for Madame Lu. Madame Lu doesn't need to be like this. After General Lu recovers from his illness, he will naturally go to the palace to apologize, right? Mrs. Lu knew what this meant, so she clenched her fists and nodded. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Qi Chen comes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Qi Chen comes. You sure, in the Changxin Palace. Song Liang is playing chess with Wang Ji. Wang Ji pondered over the next steps and asked, Your Majesty really thinks that this matter is related to General Lu? Song Liang raised his hand and held the chess piece, gently caressing the carved patterns at the corners of the chessboard with his sleeve. After the chess pieces were settled, she gently rolled up her sleeves and said, I can't draw a conclusion on this matter until it's thoroughly investigated. This matter is too mysterious. In theory, General Lu has no reason to do such a thing. The fire-fighting chariot was originally built by soldiers in the military camp, and as a great general, Lu Yunqing held military power. These weapons will eventually come into his hands, no matter what. But if it weren't for him, why would Lu Jin falsely accuse him? Your Majesty, how do you plan to arrange it next? At this moment, Song Liang was carefully studying the chess game. Without thinking about what was going on, he casually replied, let the governor of Beijing pay attention. Tonight, there may be an accident in the imperial edict. If General Lu is innocent, then Lu Jin's true master will definitely take his life tonight. Your Majesty, rest assured that the royal guards have guarded the imperial edict tightly. No one except Your Majesty can obtain Lu Jin's life and leave. Lu Jin is a sinner, whether he lives or dies, I don't care at all. I just want to know who exactly kidnapped Bai Cheng. Upon hearing this, Wang Ji didn't move his chess pieces for a while, as if he was thinking about something. After hesitating for a moment, he finally spoke cautiously and said, Your Majesty, you never cared about these things in the past. But this time, you seem to be particularly concerned. Wang Ji couldn't help but think about this question for a whole day. Since Song Liang learned today that the blueprint for the fire chariot had been stolen, and Bai Cheng's whereabouts were unknown, he seemed to have changed a person. He has been following Song Liang for some time now, and has never seen her take matters of government seriously. Since his accession to the throne, Song and Liang have ignored the government, been lazy all day, and only focused on playing. I proclaimed myself emperor for 6 months and played for 6 months. It can be said that there is nothing wrong with state affairs and politics, but one is proficient in eating, drinking, and playing. But this time, since Song Liang learned that the fire-fighting chariot map was lost, his whole person has changed. Not only did he deign to go to the Imperial prison to personally listen to the trial, but he also repeatedly reminded the royal guards to investigate this matter and bring Bai Qing back safely. Wang Ji stayed by her side for a day, listening to her talk about Bai Cheng's affairs more than 10 times. Why does she care so much about the fate of a mere physician named Yu Heng? What's wrong with his family's incompetent ruler? Regarding this, Song Liang just smiled slightly and gave him an impeccable answer. The importance of the fire chariot to De Zhao is so great that I cannot sit idly by. Who knows if she is worried about the fire chariot or about the life of that Yu Heng, the magistrate. Wang Ji knew that this answer had no value at all, but he still flattered him by saying, "Your Majesty is wise, it is the blessing of the great Zhao." Song Liang didn't urge him to move his chess pieces for a long time. He just changed the topic and suddenly asked, "By the way, is General Liu really sick or fake?" I have found out that General Liu was indeed seriously injured. However, the injury on General Liu's body was not caused by the Battle of Yi City, but by Lady Liu's beating after returning to the capital. Song Liang was sweaty and speechless for a moment. A high-ranking general who was beaten by his wife and couldn't get out of bed. It really works. General's mansion. Mrs. Liu took out a picture from the dark grid and slowly opened it. At the top of the blueprint, 4 big characters were prominently written. A fire-fighting vehicle. This is the blueprint of the fire-fighting chariot that was drawn by Bai Cheng, the Langzhong of Yu Heng, over a period of 3 years. This is the picture that Song Liang ordered the Beijing governor to search for with all his might. Now, it happens to fall into her hands. Song Liang didn't sleep very soundly tonight. At that moment, just as she was about to fall asleep, a black-clad assassin broke through the window and swung his knife at her. Fortunately, she was well prepared and had a mechanism set up inside the house, successfully capturing the assassin. Unexpectedly, just as she had just regained her senses and was about to fall asleep again, another wave of assassins arrived. So, wave after wave, it wasn't until the 3rd quarter of the Yin hour that Changxin Palace was finally born. After being harassed by the assassins all night, Song Liang overslept the next day and unexpectedly missed the morning court. The officials in the court had long been accustomed to her not coming to court, so they didn't say much, at most scolding her behind her back a few unpleasant words. It is not an exaggeration to say that at this time, Song Liang was a completely incompetent ruler in the hearts of the courtiers. Since her accession to the throne, not a single decision she has made in court has been right. For example, last month during the severe drought in Bianjing, the court urgently needed funding to relieve the disaster. Song Liang not only remained penniless, but also ordered the government to recruit men and build the Dragon King Temple on a large scale as the people's lives became increasingly difficult. The silver for building the Dragon King Temple was still forced by the government to be donated bit by the people. After the construction was finally completed, she began to demand that the people of Bianjing City be vegetarian all day long, urging them to sincerely influence the Dragon King and pray for rain. All the officials were unable to understand, but Song Liang insisted that only by praying for rain can Bianjing be saved. There are too many despicable facts that this foolish gentleman has done. Not only was he incompetent in national affairs, but he was also ignorant and arrogant, causing the death of Duke Sheng, who was loyal to Zhao. A few days ago, Duke Sheng fell seriously ill, to the point where he couldn't even walk steadily. Duke Sheng sent someone to take leave, saying that he couldn't go to court every day and requesting to stay at home to rest. Song Liang refused his leave and insisted that he personally explain the situation to her in order for her to agree with him. Duke Zheng had no choice but to endure the pain and limp into the palace. It can be said that it took countless hardships to live and see Song Liang. He thought it was over, but to his surprise, Song Liang saw that his illness was real and asked him to come to Changxin Palace to see her every day. He said that only by seeing Zheng Guogong's condition improve with his own eyes every day can she feel relieved. Duke Zheng can only do as she says. This time, he tossed and turned, causing the elderly Duke of Zheng to die. After this incident, no one in the court dared to ask her for leave again. Except for Song Liang himself, no one dares to be absent from the morning court every day. Even if she doesn't come, they have to show up. Even if you are sick, you have to endure it and dare not rest. I only dare to curse her for being a foolish ruler behind her back, saying that De Zhao will finish sooner or later. However, despite the death of Duke Zheng, Song and Liang had no sense of shame, still living a carefree life every day. Still the Song Liang who was full of nonsense when dealing with court affairs and was enthusiastic about eating, drinking, and playing. Still the foolish ruler who is flattered openly and despised secretly. At noon, Song Liang finally finished grooming and looked at the sun hanging high above his head, feeling a bit confused. God knows, she really didn't mean to wake up so late. She really wants to go to court today. She didn't expect to oversleep and miss the morning session. Mingyue testified that she wrote an impassioned speech under the moonlight last night, preparing to perform in court this morning. Unexpectedly, as soon as I opened my eyes, it was noon and all the officials had already dispersed. If God could give her another chance, she would definitely choose to stay up all night last night. Even with panda eyes, one must perform in court. After all, improving the courtier's impression of her was the first step in her entire plan. Your Majesty, someone has arrived from the North Town Governor's office. It was Wang Ji's voice. The people from Beijing Fusha are quite good at getting stuck. As soon as I woke up, he came. After speaking, he turned around and descended from the pavilion, about to return to the hall. As if he remembered something, he quickly asked, "Who is the person coming?" Wang Jida said, "Commander of the Beijing Fusha, Qi Chen." Upon hearing this name, Song Liang paused in his footsteps, his face instantly turned pale, and without hesitation, he turned around and turned back. No, let him go back. If Song Liang were to choose the person she fears the most in this world, she would definitely choose Qi Chen without hesitation. Qi Chen is the person in this world who poses the greatest threat to her. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. The more cruel he is, the more emotional she feels. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. The more cruel he is, the more emotional she feels. This is the third day that Song Liang has traveled to this world. She is currently in a male-themed novel called Qi Tianxiao. As the name suggests, this book tells the story of a Ming dynasty ruler, Qi Chen, on his journey to proclaim himself emperor. Qi Chen is the protagonist of this world, and she, the current Empress Song Liang, is just a vicious villain who has been overthrown by Qi Chen. He was a wise ruler, while she was a foolish ruler from the previous dynasty. He is the hope of the people, she is accursed, despised by everyone. According to the original storyline, Qi Chenhui led troops to capture the Imperial city 1 year later, replacing Song Liang as the new emperor. Losing the throne is not what Song and Liang feared the most. What she is afraid of is Qi Chen's extremely cruel methods. As a male protagonist with a refreshing tone, Qi Chen possesses the most popular personality in the male protagonist world. Being ruthless and not talkative, cold and cunning. He acted decisively and had a pair of sharp eyes that could accurately identify villains. As long as the villain begins to become a demon, he will activate his male lead aura and use extremely ruthless methods to make the villain taste even more pain. As is well known, people who have been against the male lead since ancient times have not had good fruit to eat. As the most despised malicious villain in the entire book, Song Liang's ultimate fate can be described as catastrophic. First, he was sent to Imperial prison and tortured by various punishments. Afterwards, he was beheaded and publicly displayed, with his head hanging high in the city tower for 3 days and 3 nights. The people who had been oppressed by Song Liang shouted for relief and threw rotten eggs at her head all day long. God knows. When she saw this passage from Zhu Shu, she even exclaimed that it was very satisfying. The malicious villain finally suffered retribution, and the protagonist finally endured hardships and succeeded in eliminating harm for the people, reaching the pinnacle of his life. After being satisfied with the plot, she also commented and said a few cool words. The general idea is that Qi Chen's methods can still be more ruthless. When dealing with a cruel and ruthless tyrant like Song Liang, she should strip her skin and cramp her muscles, making her die hard. The previous second, she cursed passionately. The next second, she turned out to be Song Liang. I never thought that in the blink of an eye. Her life had undergone such earth-shattering changes. From a pure salted fish in the 21st century to a vicious empress who constantly acted as a demon in the first year of Tian Shan. I was so happy when I was chasing books back then, but now I feel so heavy as the villainous empress. Every time she thinks about how she will be getting boxed meals in a year or leaving in such a painful way, she feels like crying. Happiness belongs to the protagonist group and readers, and as a vicious villain, she only has loneliness and pain. Song Liang knew better than anyone that the pain of being imprisoned and tortured was beyond her ability to bear. In order to avoid this ending, she made up her mind to abandon the image of a vicious villain who was a tyrant, and to reform herself. She took the worries of the people as her concern and the joy of the people as her joy, and worked hard to become a good emperor. She thought that as long as her persona became fast enough, Qi Chen's hatred towards her should disappear faster. How could a male protagonist with a strong sense of justice and a strong sense of righteousness take action against a good emperor who worries about the people and works diligently for their well-being? Song Liang believed that as long as she was a good emperor, Qi Chen would not persecute her. Although she has already done psychological construction in her heart, she still feels scared when she hears the name Qi Chen. She doesn't want to see Qi Chen at all. Wang Ji didn't know what she was thinking, so he quickly followed Song Liang's footsteps and reminded him, "Your Majesty, Commander Qi has come to report on the progress of the case of the Jiahua chariot. It is said that it is related to Bai Cheng." As expected, when Song Liang heard Bai Cheng's name, he immediately stopped and asked, "What did Qi Chen find?" Wang Ji replied, "The commander said he has found Bai Cheng. If you find it, then it's easy to protect yourself. The northern town governor can close the case and let Qi Chen go back. If you can't see it, then don't see it. There's really no need for that." Wang Ji explained, "Your Majesty, this matter is indeed a bit strange. It is said that after the commander found Bai Cheng, he intended to send him back to the Ministry of Works, but as soon as he arrived at the Ministry of Works, Bai Cheng insisted that it was the commander who caught him and insisted on seeking justice. The Minister of Works didn't know what to do, and the two of them just got into the palace." After listening, Song Liang was completely confused. What plot are they putting on? The original text did not mention that Bai Cheng was a scoundrel. As the male lead, Qi Chen is full of righteousness and naturally wouldn't do such a thing. Similarly, Song Liang believed that Bai Cheng would not engage in such low-end activities as falsely accusing others. Although Bai Cheng is also a villainous character. However, he has always taken the path of being a major villain, and when he appears, he either kills or orders someone to kill. Although the means were brutal, Bai Cheng was arrogant and had always shown great disdain for those vulgar little tricks. Bai Cheng would never falsely accuse Qi Chen. This kind of thing is detrimental to the reputation of the first antagonist, Bai Cheng, both Song and Liang. You should know that not all villains are hated. There are also differences between villains. It's a mistake to appear when someone is despised. Some people may be antagonistic characters, but they possess a heart-wrenching attribute. Unfortunately, Song Liang was hated from beginning to end. And Bai Cheng, who is handsome, strong, and sometimes somewhat sickly and paranoid, belongs to the type of being loved. The original author was very considerate and arranged a standard setting for him as a sickly villain. His extremely tragic background created a flawed personality. Readers are preconceived, and after seeing his background, they always feel sorry for him. No matter what bad things he does, they can help him find reasons and excuse him. They only feel sorry for Bai Cheng, unlike Song Liang, who has only been disliked from beginning to end. In fact, at the time of reading, Song Liang, like them, was successfully driven by the author's emotions. Compared to the male lead, she thinks that Bai Cheng is the most outstanding aspect of the entire book. Wearing the skin of a small white lotus, while being sympathized by everyone, he committed heinous acts. The more cruel Bai Cheng was, the more sentimental Song Liang felt. However, this is by no means the reason why Song Liang was so concerned about the safety of Bai Cheng before. Song Liang understood that books are books, and reality is reality. When such a sickly and cruel person appears in the book, she will praise them with a touch of emotion. But if it really exists by her side, she will only feel terrifying. In this world today, in order to survive, Song Liang must be sober enough and never sympathize with such a pervert. The reason why I am concerned about Bai Cheng's movements is because the original plot did not mention the loss of the fire-fighting vehicle diagram, let alone the fact that Bai Cheng will disappear with the fire-fighting vehicle diagram. Now it's not time for this villain to appear, but he can't wait to come out and become a demon. This made Song Liang feel strange, and he was more concerned about the disappearance of Bai Cheng. Song Liang needs to know where the plot went wrong. Moreover, Bai Cheng is the biggest opponent of Qi Chen in this book. If Bai Cheng is dead and Qi Chen has no opponents, shouldn't he focus all his energy on dealing with her, this foolish ruler? Qi Chen's strength is unbearable to her. So in the subconscious of Song and Liang, Bai Cheng could not cause any trouble, he could not die. She wants Bai Cheng to live well and strive to be a tool against Qi Chen. In this way, Song Liang can also save dim sum and live a peaceful life. Therefore, they repeatedly reminded them to find Bai Cheng. But now, something even stranger has happened. Bai Cheng actually falsely accused Qi Chen, claiming that he was arrested by Qi Chen, and even brought this matter into the palace. What the hell is going on here? Song Liang couldn't figure it out, so he had to personally go and investigate. Inside the hall, two young men stood like pine trees, both of whom had first-class looks. Standing together can be considered the most beautiful scenery of the Great Zhao. Unfortunately, Song Liang only briefly enjoyed this mesmerizing scenery for 2 seconds. As soon as she sat down, Qi Chen spoke with a cold face and a deep voice, "I have already found the Langzhong of Yuheng. If there is nothing else, I will go back first." Song Liang suddenly felt very ridiculous. Previously, she didn't want to see others, but now it seems that she is the least favored one. The male protagonist never disdains talking to her at all. Since Song Liang entered the palace, Qi Chen has always lowered his gaze and never glanced at her. It's like taking a glance at her can shorten her lifespan by half a year. On the side, Bai Cheng was completely different from him. Song Liang clearly felt that Bai Cheng's gaze fell recklessly on her. She felt uncomfortable all over with this reckless gaze, and for a moment, she even wanted to follow her own image as a foolish ruler, and the next imperial decree struck him with a single blow. Of course, this is just a thought. Song Liang dared not stand firm in front of Qi Chen and establish his image as a foolish ruler. "Your Majesty, you cannot let Commander Qi leave." Bai Cheng suddenly spoke and stopped Qi Chen, who was about to leave. Song Liang remained silent, gesturing for Bai Cheng to continue speaking. Because the person who captured Wei Chen and stole the blueprint at that time was Qi Chen. Speak falsely with an innocent expression. Undoubtedly, it is the first blooming little white lotus in the entire book. Bai Cheng's acting skills were all online, and every move was extremely natural, as if what he said was true. But even if he acted really, Song Liang wouldn't believe him. But she still asked symbolically, Commander Qi, is what Bai Cheng said true? End of this chapter. Did you also wear chapter 4? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Did you also wear chapter 4? Qi Chen's answer was concise. False. Cherish words like him. Song Liang silently applauded for him in his heart. It's not easy, the big villain next to him used a few simple words and completely destroyed his character. And he can still remain unaffected, stick to himself, and never collapse throughout the process. This time, the character image that others didn't speak too harshly can be considered standing. Song Liang sighed in his heart while pretending to be puzzled. You two each have your own opinions, but neither of you has any evidence. Who can I trust? Bai Cheng took a step forward and calmly said, Your Majesty should have trusted me. I have been a victim of this matter from beginning to end. There is no reason to lie, let alone frame Commander Qi. He really has no reason to falsely accuse Qi Chen. At least Song Liang didn't expect it to be because of something. Qi Chen always seemed to have nothing to do with the hustle and bustle of the world, as if it was not him who was falsely accused by Bai Cheng at this moment. He doesn't seem to want to talk to Bai Cheng at all, nor does he want to talk to Song Liang. Song Liang knew he couldn't ask anything from him, and he also understood that the theft of the fire-fighting chariot and the disappearance of Bai Cheng had nothing to do with him. Therefore, there was no intention of wasting time on Qi Chen at all. Compared to Qi Chen, who maintained a posture unrelated to me, the villain next to him who kept pretending to be someone else seemed to be better at getting started. It should be much simpler to find the reason from the first antagonist, Bai Cheng. After wandering between the two, Song Liang's gaze finally fell on Bai Cheng. You really have no reason to lie, I can trust you. However, you need to explain your itinerary for yesterday clearly. Upon hearing this, Bai Cheng carried his hand behind him, with a look of victory in his hands. This dear villain almost forgot to write the 4 words "successful plot" on his face. He began to talk confidently. Yesterday morning, around 8 o'clock, I got up as usual to check the drawings. But as soon as I opened the drawings, a man in black broke through the window and came up to grab them. I was so scared that I ran out of the window, but no matter where I ran, the man in black chased me relentlessly. Running and running, I ran into a dead end and was caught. He runs, he chases, he can't fly. After listening, Song Liang almost vomited blood on the spot. What kind of nonsense are these? Does Bai Cheng lie without a draft? Where is the palace? Dare to say any nonsense, really treat her as a foolish ruler with cerebral palsy, unable to even hear such low-level lies. With no words in his heart, Song Liang spoke in a deep voice, Young Xia, you have great kung fu. Even though Bai Cheng was a fool, he could still see that there was something wrong with Song Liang's expression at this moment. He suddenly had a premonition that his plans seemed to fail. Your Majesty's praise is absurd. I really don't have much time, I just run faster. Song Liang only regarded what he said as farting. Breaking through the window. This man in black is quite impressive. However, I remember that the accommodation arranged by the Ministry of Works for you was on a tower, which seemed to be several tens of meters high. You are also impressive. When you were startled, you immediately ran out of the window. Even a few tens of meters tall building couldn't kill you. I want to know, can you fly or have an immortal body? Bai Cheng was clearly stunned. He didn't expect to overturn the car so thoroughly that the wheels were gone. Isn't it true that Song Liang was a foolish ruler and never had a brain in the palace? Is it because his technique for fabricating lies is so poor that even a foolish ruler can see through it? It seems that he needs to practice lying well in the future. Struggling for 100 days, he must strive to deceive the foolish ruler. Your Majesty, you are so clever. Actually, I was just making a small joke on you just now. Don't mind, haha. The last two haha were extremely spiritual, and Song Liang exclaimed in his heart, please don't say anything, your character has collapsed out of the palace. Bai Qing couldn't guess her thoughts, so he prepared another set of speeches. Just as he was about to showcase it, he was stopped by Song Liang. Alright, you two can handle it privately. I don't want to interfere anymore. She can't even control it. Bai Qing couldn't believe a word in his mouth, and Qi Chen didn't say a word. Two people standing here at this moment are like two beautiful vases, with no reference value except for their beauty. Bai Qing is still striving to persist in expressing his opinions. Your Majesty, you cannot ignore this matter. Stealing a fire chariot map is a serious crime, and you must punish Commander Qi properly. Song Liang felt that his courage was commendable. Without any evidence, one dares to speak out and falsely accuse the commander of the northern town governor of that dynasty. He is truly not afraid of retaliation as a Langshur of Yuheng. The male lead is a person who cannot tolerate sand in his eyes. He has always had grievances and revenge, and he will never show mercy when he takes action. At this moment, Bai Qing was simply jumping repeatedly on the brink of death. Song Liang predicted that one day he would be killed by Qi Chen. Obviously, Qi Chen had no disdain for fighting with Bai Qing at all. He finally spoke up and said, if there's nothing else, I'll go back first. It's over, it seems that the male lead can't bear it anymore. How can the male lead be so angry? What if Wan Ichi gets angry and chops her directly? The first rule of the guide to wearing books for life. People with the protagonist's aura must not be provoked. Song Liang hurriedly said, the commander has worked hard. After returning, you should rest well. She spoke sincerely and attentively. It's like implying a good-licking dog. Qi Chen seemed to have no interest in what she said, just turned around and left, leaving her with a graceful yet indifferent, lonely yet resolute figure. Undoubtedly the male lead, cold enough. Song Liang applauded for him. However, Bai Qing beside him was somewhat confused. He felt that today's foolish ruler must have gone crazy. Otherwise, how could Chen be so well aligned? They are all villains. What kind of person is this foolish ruler pretending to be in front of the male lead? Song Liang suddenly disbanded everyone in the hall. In the Jinluan Hall of Nuoda, only he and Song Liang were left. Song Liang stared straight at him and approached him step by step. The distance was getting closer and closer, and Bai Qing couldn't help but feel a little scared. This tyrant is not coveting his beauty. He wants to do something to him, right, Your Majesty? Your Majesty, please don't do this. I can't do it, I really can't. Song Liang. The whole thing is speechless. She couldn't bear to watch any more and waved her hand, saying, all right, stop pretending. Your character has long been ruined. Bai Qing was confused again. Your Majesty, what do you mean by saying this? Song Liang looked at him from top to bottom and then asked, how long have you been in this world? How much do you know about this place? What is the purpose of this whole scene today? Ah! Bai Qing was so shocked that he couldn't speak. Song Liang explained, when I first asked about your itinerary, you were exposed. At that time, there were 4 words in the lie he made up. 8 o'clock in the morning. These 4 words have solved all the doubts of Song and Liang. The plot deviates from the original intention of Bai Qing to become a demon, and the character collapse is because he is not the real Bai Qing at all. She predicted that he, like her, did not belong to this world. As a good young man of the 21st century, his portrayal of this villain is truly a failure. It can be said that there are many loopholes. Fortunately, she just moved the topic to another place in time, otherwise if Qi Chen noticed the strange things in Bai Qing's words, he would be done. So, are you also wearing it? Are we fellow villagers? Bai Qing finally realized. You just realized now. Song Liang somewhat despised his intelligence. I can't believe it, can I? I wouldn't have thought that the Empress of the dynasty was actually my fellow villager. If I had known we had this kind of relationship, then I wouldn't have put in so much effort to do this in the next few days. If I had known earlier, he should have directly entered the palace and, relying on his identity as the Empress of Song and Liang, killed the people who needed to be killed. After a brief conversation with Bai Cheng, she roughly understood that Bai Cheng's situation was the same as hers, and the time she wore it was the same, both the day before yesterday. What are you doing this for? Song Liang really wants to know why this fellow villager is doing such a thing. Hardly adding a scene to himself, adding a scene of a lost fire chariot painting. What are the benefits of doing this for Bai Cheng? It's not for the sake of survival, and you don't know how much threat Qi Chen poses to us. I'll tell you, the best way to lift the threat is to directly eliminate it. If we want to live well in the future, Qi Chen must die. The earlier he dies, the earlier our good days will come. Song Liang originally wanted to reform herself and change herself, so that Qi Chen would show mercy to her in the future. However, Bai Cheng took a different approach and planned to directly kill the male lead, completely eliminating the danger. She remained silent, and he continued on his own. Now that you are on the throne, it is much more convenient for us. Song Liang remained silent. Bai Cheng saw that she had not responded and vaguely guessed her thoughts, so he asked, haven't you never had a murderous heart towards him? End of this chapter. Chapter 5. She is the childhood sweetheart of the male lead. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. She is the childhood sweetheart of the male lead. Putting aside the moral aspect, this is indeed a good approach. But she understands the value of life. Moreover, Qi Chen has never done anything evil. In the original text, he devoted his entire life to seeking the welfare of the people. Qi Chen will never die. With this in mind, Song Liang said in a deep voice, although I am the Empress, I would never arbitrarily sentence someone to death like this. He is indeed a threat to us, but it cannot be resolved. But Bai Cheng wanted to say something more, but was interrupted by Song Liang. There's no need to say anything more about this matter, but you must remember not to throw dirty water on Qi Chen in the future. Be careful that he will take action against you. Are you afraid of him? Bai Cheng asked in some surprise. Song Liang was exposed by him, feeling a bit guilty, but still spoke hard. I am a great empress of a country, how could I be afraid of him? Bai Cheng nodded and said, I don't think you should be afraid of him, but if we don't solve Qi Chen early, we will definitely die a miserable death. I will come up with a solution to this matter. You go back and wait for my news first. After speaking, Song Liang never gave Bai Cheng a chance to speak again and directly ordered Wang Ji to send him out of the palace. After seeing off Bai Cheng, Wang Ji returned to Song Liang's side and brewed tea for her while reporting, Your Majesty, after the commander just left the palace, he went to the Imperial prison and said he wanted to interrogate Lu Jin. Song Liang furrowed his brow, paused slightly as he held up the tea cup, and said in a deep voice, I have personally reviewed it. Is Qi Chen still going? If he goes, he will go. Why doesn't he tell me? Wang Ji explained earnestly, I received a report from the front line today. Recently, the Empress Dowager of the Western Shu Kingdom has been ordering people to recruit troops and by horses, as if she is about to send out troops. The commander of Qi only found out about this after entering the palace. It should be because she was too eager to retrieve the map of the fire-fighting chariot, so she did not have time to report it to His Majesty. Upon hearing this, Song Liang put down his teacup and pondered for a moment before asking, Have you found out who Qi Chen saw before leaving the palace today? There was a change in the enemy country, and Qi Chen surprisingly learned about it before the empress of her country, even after entering the palace. Are there still people from Qi Chen in this palace? She really wants to know who told Qi Chen about this matter now. There is someone in this deep palace who is so well informed, even about the affairs of the Western Shu Kingdom. Wang Ji replied, I have already investigated for your majesty. Commander Qi went to the Shangchao bureau before leaving the palace and met with the Siyun Lu Zhaolin, who is the daughter of General Lu. Lu Zhaolin, such a familiar name. Song Liang Masua was holding the Bodhi pearl in his palm, carefully recalling where he had heard the name. At this moment, Wang Ji spoke up just in time to remind, Miss Lu has been growing up with Commander Qi since childhood, and they have a very good relationship. With his reminder, Song Liang remembered everything. Lu Zhaolin is one of the female protagonists in the original text, and the childhood sweetheart of the male protagonist Qi Chen. Song Liang smiled and said, so, when he comes to the palace, he will specially go and see how his old age looks. It seems that this male lead is not so cold and ruthless. Wang Ji explained, it was Lu Xiong who heard that Commander Qi had entered the palace and entrusted someone to deliver a message to Commander Qi, saying that he had something important to report today and asked him to attend the Shangchao bureau. Song Liang was a bit surprised and said, do you know that? Is it possible for Wang Ji to uncover such a secretive matter when people see Lao Xianghao? I know exactly what to ask someone to say. He shouldn't have set up surveillance cameras in the palace, right? Wang Ji answered calmly, if I want to share the worries of your majesty, I naturally need to know these things. Song Liang was momentarily moved. Above the court and in the deep palace courtyard, there are all good officials, and the great Zhao will surely remain prosperous for a long time. Wang Ji had already investigated this matter so clearly, and Song Liang roughly guessed what was going on. She said while drinking tea, so General Lu brought this news back from the front line of Yi City, but it has not been reported to the court for a long time. It was not until today that we learned about this matter when someone else came from the front line. If I guess correctly, Lu Xiong must have returned home yesterday and met General Lu. People who hold positions in the palace will only receive information about state affairs through their family members who hold such positions. And Lu Xiong happened to have a father who had just returned from the front line, Lu Yunqing. Wang Jidao said, Your Majesty is right. I have checked and found out that Lu Xiong did take leave and go home yesterday. He only returned to the palace early this morning. I believe he must have met General Lu. Song Liang stood up and looked at the palace maids coming and going outside the window, saying, It seems that the entire Lu family has a lot of courage. They dare to hide such things from the court and me. Wang Ji followed her gaze and asked, Your Majesty, are you going to have someone monitor the landing of the general's mansion? Song Liang smiled and said, No need, there will be someone watching for me. The governor of Beijing issued a decree to be imprisoned. Qi Chen took the handkerchief handed over by his subordinate and wiped his hand covered in blood. The other party has interrogated Lu Jin and is preparing to return to the mansion. Commander Yan Qing followed behind him and lowered his voice, saying, Sir, Lu Jin has tried our methods and his words are no different from those of the foolish ruler who personally tried them. It shouldn't be so. Qi Chening said, That proves that Lu Jin's confession is true. He doesn't believe what Song Liang asked from Lu Jin, but the confessions he obtained through his own means will only be true and never false. Qi Chen has 100 ways to call life better than death, and just now he used a full 10 methods on Lu Jin. He was convinced that Lu Jin would never dare to make any false statements just now. Yan Qing said, You also know General Kolu's character. He would never do such a thing. Qi Chen stopped and said in a deep voice, General Lu is loyal to his country and wouldn't do such a foolish thing. There is only one possibility of this, and Lu Jin doesn't know who his true master is. Upon hearing this, Yan Qing became interested. He wrapped his arms around his hands and looked at Qi Chen, asking, So, is someone deliberately framing General Lu? Qi Chen shook his head and said, I don't know, I need to go check General Lu's mansion first. Yan Qing was surprised at the words. Lord Qi, are you really going to investigate the Lu family? Miss Lu family is very serious about you. Wang Ji's eyeliner is all over the palace. It's so dangerous. She dares to take such a risk today to tell you about it. If you turn around and go to investigate the Lu family, isn't it a bit unkind? Qi Chen replied, it's just an investigation. What's the point? Besides, if we investigate this matter, we can quickly clear the name of the Lu family. Yan Qing asked again, if it's really General Lu who did it, you should investigate this matter and not be afraid that Miss Lu will be sad. Qi Chen's tone remained cold. I am close friends with Zhao Lin and have no personal relationship with our children. The Northern Town Governor's investigation does not require so much consideration. National affairs should be given priority. He just wants to quickly retrieve the blueprint of the fire chariot, otherwise if he waits for the Western Shu Kingdom to attack, the Zhao will have no way to respond, and by then everything will be too late. General Lu is currently the only clue for Qi Chen, and he must start investigating from General Lu's mansion. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Shangchao. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Shangchao Song Liang got up early today, and Yin Shi got up to dress and prepare to go to court. She once again took out the passionate speech she had prepared earlier. Wang Jili stood behind the screen, respectfully waiting for Song Liang. He spoke in surprise, Your Majesty, why do you need to be so early? It's not too late to get up at the hour of Mao. I didn't go to court yesterday, so I can't delay any longer today. Song Liang had already put on his dragon robe and stood in front of the bronze mirror, looking at himself. When in power, one must seek the blessings of the country. Wang Ji smiled with relief upon hearing the words and said, Your Majesty is concerned about national affairs, which is the blessing of the great Zhao. I should be like this in the imperial throne. Above the court, golden and magnificent. This is the first time Song Liang went to court in his life. The courtiers stood respectfully in the hall, while Song Liang sat on the golden lacquer-carved dragon throne, looking down at the courtiers in detail. Her gaze fell on Qi Chen, and she paused for a long time. Song Liang suddenly remembered the description of Qi Chen in the book. Qi Chen was extremely beautiful, with sword eyebrows and starry eyes, a straight posture, and a youthful aura in his eyebrows. In the eyes of young people, it is a love for their country and a passion for defending their country and making contributions. She looked at Qi Chen, only to find that he was really the same as described in the book. Qi Chen is really good-looking, so beautiful that people can't take their eyes off him. Seemingly sensing Song Liang's gaze, Qi Chen suddenly looked up and met her. Eyes intertwined, and no one had the intention of moving their eyes away. Qi Chen's eyes were full of questions, as if asking, What do you think I'm doing? Song Liang's gaze was firm, as if responding, Look at you. Qi Chen saw that she had never averted her gaze and was unwilling to confront her. As he was about to lower his head and stop looking at her, he heard Song Liang speak. I heard that the Empress Dowager of Western Shu has been continuously recruiting troops and horses recently. Can Commander Qi be aware of this? Qi Chen did not lie and said frankly, I have heard of it a bit. Song Liang smiled again and said, I have heard that Commander Qi has a deep friendship with Miss Lu's family. Is this the case? Qi Chen replied calmly, I grew up together with Lu Xiong from a young age. Yan Qing, standing on the side, was shocked in his heart. He knew very well that if Song Liang dared to ask such a question, he must have already known about the news that Miss Lu reported to Qi Chen yesterday. It is a great taboo for court officials and palace women to meet privately. According to the tyrant's temperament, it is possible to give a death penalty to both Qi Chen and Miss Lu if they are unhappy. Qi Chen still answered so candidly, without any concealment, as if he was not afraid of Song Liang blaming him at all. He is really bold. Song Liang also feels the same way. However, she did not intend to bring the blame on Qi Chen, she just knocked on Qi Chen in the court. Song Liang didn't mention Miss Lu's matter again. He averted his gaze from Qi Chen and looked at the courtiers in the hall, saying, The fire-fighting chariot map has been lost recently, and Western Shu is secretly recruiting troops and horses. I don't think these incidents are accidental. What do the courtiers think? The courtiers were all stunned at the words. What did they just hear? Did this actually come from Song Liang's mouth? How could that be so? Can she think of this level? How could it be? I arrived early to go to court without being late at all. After being so concerned about national affairs, one can still think of the loss of the fire-fighting chariot map being related to the Western Shu Kingdom. Something's wrong, it's very wrong. Before, she used to talk nonsense in the court and never said a word right. What's wrong with the foolish lord today? It's too abnormal, isn't it? Qi Chen was also somewhat surprised. Although he also thought that this might be related to the Western Shu Kingdom, he had not yet found evidence, so he did not express this idea to anyone. Now Song Liang actually thought of this too. Has she already found something? An old man dressed in a red court uniform slowly spoke up. Western Shu has always wanted to conquer Yi City. This recruitment of troops and horses should be in preparation for the Battle of Yi City. Fortunately, Song Liang had carefully examined the portraits of civil and military officials before and had already recognized all these courtiers. Red court attire, over 50 years old, with a mole on the corner of the mouth, the speaker should be Lin, a Guanlu doctor. A grand and noble doctor, able to say such insincere words. Song Liang couldn't help but wonder how he managed to get into this position. Song Liang didn't give him a thin face either. He glared at him and said coldly, Master Guanlu, don't talk nonsense in the court. Who in this court doesn't know the thoughts of Western Shu? What I want is a solution. Dr. Guanlu was accused by her, and his face was lost. Blushed and his head was buried lower. He feels a bit aggrieved. Even before he was in court, he would have been praised by Song Liang. With the precedent of Dr. Guanlu being scolded, no one dared to speak up in the court. Yan Qing looked at the scene awkwardly and tried to shift the topic. Now that Dr. Yu Heng has recovered it, I don't think it's as important whether the fire chariot diagram is lost or not. I can ask Dr. Yu Heng to draw another one. As he spoke, he looked around and continued, why didn't Dr. Yu Heng come to court today? Song Liang said, Baiqing has been frightened recently. I allow him to rest at home for a few days before going to court. In fact, Song Liang felt that he didn't have much brain and would eventually reveal his background. He ordered him to reflect carefully at home. She asked Baiqing not to come out and cause trouble when he had nothing to do. As for asking him to draw another one, I have also considered it. Yesterday, I asked him and he said that the fire chariot diagram is very detailed. It will take a long time to draw another one, probably more than half a month. Qi Chen spoke with some confusion. Your Majesty asked him yesterday. I asked. Song Liang nodded calmly. Of course not. She didn't even need to ask to make it clear that Baiqing couldn't draw it. If today's Baiqing could recreate the picture of a fire chariot, then Song Liang would be able to do everything from heaven to earth. Qi Chen said again, Your Majesty, it was previously the responsibility of the northern town governor in charge of this case. Although we have retrieved the blueprint from General Yu Heng, we have not been able to retrieve it. I request that you continue to investigate the case and retrieve the blueprint for the sake of Emperor Zhao. I hope Your Majesty agrees. Song Liang had already anticipated that he would want to continue investigating the case, and the male lead's heart would always be concerned about national affairs. I have this intention. After retreating from the court, Qi Chen led the Jin way straight to the Lu family. Mrs. Lu did not expect Qi Chen to lead troops to come. Qi Chen and Lu Zhaolin have always been good friends, and she has always regarded Qi Chen as a potential son-in-law. Now that Qi Chen is so unfriendly, it surprised her a lot. I couldn't help feeling a little unhappy in my heart, but Mrs. Lu still maintained a smile on her face. It's been a long time since you came back, and I didn't expect such a big battle this time. she said Qi Chen did not intend to reminisce with her and said bluntly, "We are busy with official matters, and we hope you can understand. Today, with your Majesty's decree, we invite General Lu to come out and meet us." Madame Lu couldn't help but smile when she saw him like this, and her tone became a bit cold. "Your Majesty should know that General has been seriously injured and cannot come out to see guests." Qi Chen said, "Then I will go see him. Your Majesty's decree must be followed." End of this chapter. Chapter 7. A Bit of Beauty. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. A Bit of Beauty. After speaking, without giving Mrs. Lu any time to react, she directly led people into the door of the Lu family. Qi Chen has always been familiar with the Lu family, so he naturally does not need anyone to lead the way and can easily command people to search the Lu mansion. Madame Lu intended to stop him, but the people of the royal guards had already surrounded her. She dared not resist and could only watch him lead people into one room after another to search. However, Qi Chen did not find Lu Yunqing in the Lu mansion. To be precise, Lu Yunqing was not found anywhere he could search. In Changxin Palace. While helping Song Liang review the memorial, Wang Ji asked, "Your Majesty, do you really have peace of mind to lead the commander to investigate this case?" Song Liang was lazily dozing off in his chair and casually replied, "What's bothering you? After all, Qi Chen is the commander of the Northern Town Governor's office, and this matter won't be difficult for him. My point is that Commander Qi and the Lu family are old friends after all, and if he is favoritism." Wang Ji didn't continue with the remaining words. "He won't do it." Song Liang shook his head. Iron-faced and selfless, cold and ruthless, is the character of the male lead Qi Chen. He will never show favoritism in this life, let alone distort black and white just because he is an old friend, to exonerate him. Although Song Liang had little contact with Qi Chen, she believed in what was written in the book and also believed that the male protagonist would never change. "However, your statement reminds me that when Qi Chen went to the Lu family today, he must have wanted to meet Lu Yunqing first. But with Mrs. Lu present, it may be difficult for him to meet Lu Yunqing." After thinking for a moment, Song Liang suddenly stood up and said to Wang Ji, who was reviewing the memorial on behalf of Song Liang, "All right, don't criticize for now. Follow me to the Lu family again." Going to the Lu family. Wang Ji was a bit puzzled. "His Majesty, what are your plans now?" Song Liang nodded and said, "I need Qi Chen to see Lu Yunqing. But last time we went to the Lu mansion, we didn't see General Lu. Madame Lu dared not even stop you, Your Majesty." Of course, Song Liang also thought of this, and she already had a plan in her heart. It's easy to say, just bring Lu Xiong along. When Lu Xiong received this order, she was brewing wine and never expected that Song Liang would order her to go to the Lu mansion together. Song Liang said it well, saying that she sympathized with General Lu's heavy injuries while fighting for the country and allowed her to take a day off to take care of her father. But she had only taken a day off 2 days ago to visit her father at the Lu mansion, and at this time, Song Liang ordered her to return to the Lu mansion. The purpose was definitely not simple. How could a tyrant like her empathize with others? She definitely hasn't settled her mind. Lu Xiong deliberately changed into plain clothes, wiped off the grease on his lips and mouth, and adjusted his voice in a deserted area to make himself look extremely weak. Only then did he go to meet Song Liang with a soft and weak voice. When she got on the carriage, Song Liang lifted the sedan curtain and glanced at her from afar. Although it is far away, it is not difficult to see that Miss Lu is a beautiful embryo. She is truly the #1 female lead, with a bit of beauty. Unfortunately, the male lead Qi Chen is on the stall, and in the future, Lu Xiong may suffer a lot. Lu Fu. Qi Chen Wanwan did not expect Song Liang to visit the Lu mansion again in person. After hearing the announcement, he respectfully stood at the door of the Lu mansion to greet her, but saw Lu Xiong closely following behind her. How did Song Liang bring her along too? Just as he was lost in thought, Song Liang spoke up and said, Lu Xiong is worried about his father's injury, so I will bring her over to take a look. Lu Xiong never expected Song Liang to say this. How could this tyrant spread rumors about her in front of her? Even though she was speechless in her heart, she dared not have any complaints on her lips. I could only nod repeatedly and speak with a sobbing voice. I heard that my father was injured, and I couldn't sleep day and night. I have been worried about my father's injury, so I went to ask His Majesty and wanted to see him. It is your Majesty's grace that allows me to have the opportunity to leave the palace and return to my mansion. Song Liang watched her performance quietly and applauded for her in his heart. In the original text, Lu Xiong looked like such a weak little white rabbit, which made people feel a desire to protect themselves. Mrs. Lu felt both angry and helpless when she said so. She never expected her biological daughter to stand on Song Liang's side and speak for the foolish ruler. At this moment, although she was aware that what Lu Xiong said was false, she could not speak up and expose it. If you want to see your father, just take leave and go back to the mansion. There's no need for such a big battle, Mrs. Lu said with a hint of grievance in her tone. Upon hearing this, Lu Xiong timidly glanced at Song Liang, his eyes showing a hint of confusion. Song Liang said in a warm voice, Lu Xiong, there's nothing you need to do here. Go see your father. After speaking, he gave Qi Chen a wink and gestured for him to step down together. After the two of them left, Song Liang began to slowly deal with Mrs. Lu. She always thinks that Mrs. Lu is not easy. Unfortunately, there was very little description of Mrs. Lu in the original text, and Song Liang couldn't recall anything about her, making it impossible to determine whether she was good or bad. On the other hand, Qi Chen followed behind Lu Xiong and asked her, do you know where your father is now? Why did I search the entire general's mansion but couldn't find him? Lu Xiong turned around and glanced at him, her cheeks suddenly turning slightly red. She whispered, my father is not currently in the mansion, but has been sent to another hospital by my mother. I came back a few days ago to plead with her for a long time, and only then did she let me go see him. It seems that my father is still recovering in another hospital. Ah, Qi, I'll take you there. Excuse me, Qi Chen replied briefly. Madame Lu placed several guards in the other courtyard, but Qi Chen held on to the sacred intention and these guards dared not stop him, so they had to let him break in. Inside, Lu Yunqing lay on the bed with a pale face. At the moment when Qi Chen opened the door and appeared in front of him, he breathed a sigh of relief and said, I finally brought you here. Qi Chen saw that his external injury was not a sword injury, but his face was so weak that he couldn't help but wonder, General Lu, did you not get injured in the Battle of Yi City? Did you have been poisoned? Lu Yunqing sighed lightly and said, I won't be able to explain this matter to you in detail. There is something more important now that I need your help with. But it doesn't matter. Ah Zhao, you go out first, said Lu Yunqing to Lu Xiong. Lu Xiong nodded and walked out without saying much. With the help of Qi Chen, Lu Yunqing struggled to sit up and patted Qi Chen's hand, saying, now in the court, the only person I trust the most is you. Since returning to the capital from the Battle of Yi City, I have been wanting to spread the news of Western Shu, but my actions have been limited. Fortunately, I had a chance to meet Ah Zhao the day before yesterday. I told her to find an opportunity to inform you of the news. Qi Chen said. After I learned about this, I went to interrogate Lu Jin. He said it was you who instructed him to steal a picture of a fire chariot. Lu Yunqing let out a light sigh and said, he would naturally say that because the person who instructed him to do this is indeed from our Lu mansion. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Sending Lady Lu to Imperial Prison. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Sending Lady Lu to Imperial Prison. Qi Chen was surprised when he heard this and said, what does this mean? Is what Lu Jin said true? Lu Yunqing felt a little guilty and hesitated for a long time before finally speaking up. This was done by Madam. Do you mean that Mrs. Lu instructed Lu Jin to steal a fire chariot painting? That's right. I haven't told Ah Zhao about this yet. If she knew that Madame had done such a terrible thing, she would definitely be very sad. I know my wife has made a big mistake and should be punished severely, but after all, she belongs to my Lu family. If this matter is known to your majesty, it will definitely lead to a serious crime. Ah Zhao has only recently entered the palace, and I am afraid this matter will involve her. So I would like to ask for your help to keep this matter a secret for now, and then find a solution. Qi Chen didn't wait for Lu Yunqing to finish speaking before interrupting. What should be solved? There is national law, and besides, Miss Lu will eventually know about this matter. It is indeed Lady Lu who did something wrong and should be punished. Lu Yunqing didn't expect him to be so heartless. His face couldn't help but show a hint of embarrassment, but he still begged, I naturally know this truth, but Qi, please help me think of a way to save our Lu family this time, considering that we have known each other for many years. Qi Chen remained cold and said, even if our friendship is deep, we should follow the rules and abide by the law. I admire your ability to lead troops. If there are other things, I can naturally help, but I really can't help in this matter. He is the commander of the North Town Governor's office, how could he have done such a selfish thing? Lu Yunqing's heart sank when he heard him say such things. Aki, I watched you grow up. If something like this happened to the Lu family this time, do you really want to ignore it and even report it truthfully? Qi Chen does not want to meddle in this matter any further. No matter what Lu Yunqing says, Qi Chen cannot change a single penny. He will never bend the law for personal gain. But he still had doubts in his heart. What is the relationship between this matter and Western Shu? Lu Yunqing understood his meaning and let out a deep sigh. He shook his head and replied, I don't know, I only know that Lu Jin was instructed by his wife. As for anything else, I don't know. After returning to the capital from the Battle of Yi City, I was sent by my wife to another hospital for recuperation. It is said to be recuperation, but in reality, it is house arrest. My current appearance is also drugged by her, and I don't even have the strength to get out of bed. So for other things, I really don't know anything. Qi Chen nodded and said, I will send a doctor to treat you. I need to go back to the Lu mansion first. Your Majesty is still in the Lu mansion today, so I cannot stay here for too long. Without giving Lu Yunqing time to say anything else, he turned around and left. In the hall of Lu mansion, Song Liang was already so tired that he began to yawn. Qi Chen finally appeared in her sight. She muttered softly, finally, I'm back. If she doesn't come back, she will fall asleep. After returning to the hall, Qi Chen said directly, Your Majesty, I have already investigated the case of the loss of the fire-fighting vehicle diagram. Oh. Song Liang raised his eyebrows. So, could you tell me where the fire-fighting chariot map is now? Qi Chen turned to look at Mrs. Lu and said, I'm afraid I'll have to ask Mrs. Lu about the whereabouts of the blueprint now. Madame Lu was shocked upon hearing this. Does he already know? How could it be like this? Madame Lu forced herself to remain calm and said, Ask me what's going on. How could I know where the fire-fighting vehicle map is now? Qi Chen said coldly, If Madame Lu doesn't want to say anything, please follow me to the North Town Governor's office over there. You know, there is no mouth that cannot be opened in our North Town Governor's office. Madame Lu looked at Qi Chen incredulously and said, Ah Qi, how could you talk to me like that? How have you become like this now? The Lu and Qi families are close friends, and she has seen Qi Chen grow up with her own eyes. Now, she is actually threatening her. Qi Chen's tone was indifferent, business is business, I have always been like this. Madame Lu, I advise you that if you honestly hand over the picture of the fire-fighting chariot at this time, there may still be a glimmer of hope. He surprisingly showed no mercy towards her. Madame Lu suppressed her anger and said in a low voice, a glimmer of hope. Qi Chen, I don't understand what you're saying. I also advise you not to speak recklessly without evidence. Madame Lu, Are you asking me to provide evidence of your communication with Western Shu before I can reveal the truth? Upon hearing this, Mrs. Lu was completely stunned. She was already at the peak of her nervousness, her heart almost stopping suddenly. Impossible. How could it be? How could Qi Chen possibly know about this? Since communicating with Shishu, she has always felt that she is doing it very well, and no one will ever be able to find out about her. Qi Chen didn't give her any time to ease up, so he said directly, how could I possibly know these things, right? Mrs. Lu, do you deserve to do such a thing for the Lu family and the great Zhao? Madame Lu roared wildly, you're talking nonsense. I've never done such a thing before. My Lu family's loyalty to Zhao can be seen from the sun and the moon. How could I possibly do such a thing? Don't talk nonsense. Qi Chen stared into her eyes and remained calm. Madame Lu, what do you think Beijing Fusher does? Finding this evidence has always been easy for us. If it weren't for General Lu's sake, I wouldn't have wasted my words with you here. Did this bastard Lu Yunqing tell you? She stood up excitedly, I've been married to him for many years, and he can be so ruthless. As soon as the words fell, the hall fell silent for a long time. Qi Chen looked at her indifferently and said, you admit it. Beijing Fusher naturally did not receive any evidence, and even Lu Yunqing did not reveal her collusion with the Western Shu. He was just trying to cheat her just now, and he didn't expect to cheat this out so easily. Mrs. Lu remained in place, completely stunned. What does it mean? Qi Chen ignored her and turned to salute Song Liang. Your Majesty, Madame Lu colluded with the Western Shu and instructed Lu Jin to steal the fire-fighting chariot map. This matter has been investigated and the Northern Town Governor can now close the case. As for Madame Lu, I believe she should be imprisoned by the Northern Town Governor's decree. Imperial Prison. Qi Chen wants to imprison Lady Lu in Imperial Edict. Song Liang didn't expect him to be so heartless. She suddenly felt a little scared of him. Is the Lu family really not important to him at all? He surprisingly showed no mercy to the Lu family and directly wanted to imprison Lady Lu. As you please, I will fully entrust this matter to you. Upon hearing these words, Lady Lu trembled like thunder, pleading in a trembling voice, no, I won't be imprisoned. Please spare your life, Your Majesty. Song Liang looked at Lady Lu and said in a deep voice, when you colluded with the Western Shu, betrayed the great Zhao, and betrayed me, did you ever think of asking me to spare your life? Commander Qi wants you to be imprisoned by decree, and then you will be imprisoned. You have done such a despicable thing, and I have not struck you with a single blow. It is already the greatest tolerance for the Lu family. As for you, your unwillingness to do so is because you find the imperial prison dirty. End of this chapter. Do you also have chapter 9? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Do you also have chapter 9? Madame Lu instantly recalled the events of the Song Liang general's mansion that day. Song Liang actually remembers that day she really bullied Song Liang for being incompetent that day, and couldn't help but want to mock her a few times. She thought that Song Liang couldn't do anything to her. But now that she has fallen into the hands of Song Liang, how could someone like Song Liang let her go? Thinking of this, Mrs. Lu burst into tears. She knelt in front of Song Liang, tugging at his clothes and pleading in a trembling voice, I know I shouldn't have been so bold that day. Saying such impolite words made your Majesty angry. I don't ask for your Majesty's forgiveness, I only ask your Majesty to forgive me this time. I will never dare again in the future. Your Majesty, please spare my life. I really don't want to be imprisoned by imperial decree. Song Liang lowered his eyes to look at her and decisively pulled the hem of his clothes pulled back to his side by Lady Lu. There are too many people who don't want to be imprisoned by imperial decree. What are you? You can do anything that betrays the country, but you still want me to spare you. What qualifications do you have to beg me? Qi Chen saw Song Liang's angry expression on his face and gave a glance to the people around him. Why don't you take it down? Madame Lu was dragged down and angrily shouted, Qi Chen. How could you be so cruel to me? Do you still have a conscience? Qi Chen ignored her and watched her being dragged away quietly. And this scene happened to be seen by Lu Xiong, who had just returned. She rushed forward and opened her arms to stop the royal guards who were about to take Lady Lu away. What are you doing? You guys let go of my mother. The Genie Wei turned to look at Qi Chen, who only replied, don't pay attention. Lu Xiong was stunned. Brother Qi, what do you mean? Did you ask them to take my mother away? Qi Chen said, Madame Lu has committed a serious crime. I have ordered someone to take her to the North Town Governor Lu for deliberation. This matter has nothing to do with you. Don't interfere too much. As he spoke, Song Liang paid special attention to his expression. Cold and ruthless. This is the complete evaluation of Song Liang on him. Lu Xiong grew up with him from a young age, and the two were childhood sweethearts. As a family working in the palace, they dared to take risks to meet him and spread messages to him at such great risks, treating him with such sincerity. Lu Xiong is not a fool, naturally knowing that what she said would be detrimental to the Lu family, but she still told everything to Qi Chen. She gave Qi Chen all her trust, but Qi Chen sent the Lu family to prison. Song Liang suddenly understood a truth. Qi Chen was extremely indifferent to anyone, no matter how long he knew each other, no matter what they paid for him, without exception, he could give up. Qi Chen may not have the heart at all. Song Liang lowered his eyes and began to feel a little uneasy. She is anxious about her future. Now Mrs. Lu has been sent to Imperial prison by Qi Chen, and he is so indifferent as if he never knew her. Song Liang suddenly remembered his own ending in the original text. In the original text, Qi Chen also sent her to Imperial prison. She always remembers her own ending when she looks at Mrs. Lu now. She was afraid that one day she would also fall into this trap. She is afraid of Qi Chen, very afraid. Song Liang suddenly doubted whether his decision was right. No matter how hard she tries to be a good emperor, it's useless. Is it possible that the ending cannot be changed at all? No matter how hard she tries, she can't change a single point. Qi Chen may not even see these changes in her, he may not even care. Perhaps everything was wrong, perhaps the decision she made was really wrong. Brother Qi, this is my mother. What can't we say properly? Even if my mother makes a mistake, she can't possibly be punished by the imperial decree. You know better than anyone where the imperial edict is. If it weren't for someone committing such a heinous act of colluding with the enemy and betraying the country, how could they have been taken into the imperial edict? My mother would never do such a thing. I'm begging you, can you let my mother go for now? At this moment, Lu Xiong's face was already filled with tears. She deliberately pretended to be weak today, and with the blessing of these tears, even Song Liang felt a desire to protect her. The weak little white rabbit cried like this, and as a childhood sweetheart, Qi Chen could remain indifferent. Song Liang didn't believe that he wouldn't react at all, so she looked at Qi Chen again. I saw that Qi Chen still had a cold and indifferent expression on his face. Oh my goodness, is there no one in this world who can cause him to experience emotional turmoil? Is Qi Chen's heart made of iron? Qi Chen walked up to Lu Xiong and said seriously, you're right. What Madame Lu did was to collude with the enemy and betray the country. At this moment, Lu Xiong almost stopped breathing. She stared blankly at Qi Chen and said, it's impossible, it's impossible. Are you lying to me, right? I never deceive anyone. After speaking, Qi Chen didn't care how much Lu Xiong tried to stop her, and directly ordered the royal guards to take Lady Lu away. Brother Qi, how could this be? Lu Xiong asked in a trembling voice. Qi Chen replied, she made a mistake, how could I know how this happened? That's my mother, no matter what she does, she's always my mother. Why can he be so ruthless? She asked again, Brother Qi, in your eyes, have we really never had any affection? Qi Chen answered decisively, there has never been any other affection between us. Both Song and Liang could imagine how much Lu Xiong would collapse upon hearing these words at this moment. At this time, there were not only people from the Lu mansion, but also the genie guard of the northern town governor. In front of so many people, Qi Chen didn't give any face to Lu Si. He is truly ruthless. Song Liang didn't want to embarrass her anymore. As he passed by her, he said, go back to the palace, Lu Xiong. If she continues to stay like this, she is afraid she will become the laughing stock of the Beijing governor and the Lu mansion. After returning to the palace, Song Liang wanted to rest well. As soon as he had a sip of tea, he heard Wang Ji report, Your Majesty, Prince Bai has arrived. He wants to see Your Majesty. Song Liang became impatient and said, Didn't I tell him not to go out recently? Didn't I tell him to stay honestly at the mansion? I was already tired today, what did Bai Cheng do again? Wang Jidao said, Bai Cheng said he had something very important to talk to His Majesty about. He had been causing trouble all day and had to leave. I heard that no matter how hard the people in the mansion tried to stop him, they couldn't stop him. In the end, they had no choice but to let him come out. Song Liang said, if he does this again next time, we'll replace all the people in his mansion with the royal guards. Let's see if he dares to make a fuss. As she spoke, she put on her coat and walked back to the main hall. Bai Cheng had been waiting here for a long time, and as soon as he saw her, he excitedly spoke up, You have it too, right? Got it. What's up? Song Liang was confused when he asked, What are you talking about? Bai Cheng was surprised by her reaction and said, You didn't. How could that be? What's there? Bai Cheng, can you be normal? Which minister comes to the palace with nothing to do and dares to ask the Empress if she has one? What's this Bai Cheng going crazy again? I saw Bai Cheng suddenly froze, as if his computer had shut down, without any reaction. What's wrong with him? End of this chapter. Chapter 10. He has his own life. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. He has his own life. Song Liang waited for a long time, and just as she was about to invite the imperial physician to come and show Bai Cheng suddenly cursed, What's breaking the rules? I saw him pouting, as if he was extremely dissatisfied with something. Song Liang was extremely speechless to him and said, I didn't realize that you were mentally ill when I saw you a few days ago. Said Bai Cheng, hesitating to speak. He scratched his head with a hint of guilt in his expression. I suddenly remembered that there was something else to attend to at my residence. I'll go back first. Stop, when will this Changxin palace be where you come and go if you want? Song Liang never let him leave until he understood what kind of demon he was playing. Auntie, please spare me. Bai Cheng wanted to cry without tears. Song Liang put his arms around his hands and scrutinized him, asking, Tell me, what exactly is it that's keeping it from me? What are you doing when you enter the palace today? I didn't have anything important to come over today, I just missed you. Come and see you. When he said these words, Bai Cheng dared not even look into her eyes. Song Liang intimidated him and said, Why do you want to go to Beijing Fusher for a walk before you're willing to say it? Upon hearing the 4 words, Beijing Fusher, Bai Cheng was startled and quickly stopped her, saying, Don't make a fuss. Are people going to places like Beijing Fusher? Song Liang is asking him to die. Song Liang ignored him at all and shouted towards the outside of the hall, Wang Ji, Yu Heng, think about it. Before she could finish speaking, she was tightly grabbed by Bai Cheng. He was frightened and hurriedly said, I say. He explained, I suddenly got something new today that allows me to have a free conversation in my mind. I thought you also had this thing, so I came over to discuss this matter with you. After pondering for a moment, Song Liang immediately realized and asked, are you saying, the system? Do you know this thing? Bai Cheng was both surprised and surprised. I saw it in a book before and didn't expect to be bumped into by you. But it's strange, why do you have a system, but I don't? They are all bookworms, why can Bai Cheng have golden fingers? Unfair, it's too unfair. Can this book treat every villain equally? Bai Cheng said, this is also something I can't figure out. In theory, you and I are both wearing this book at about the same time. If this happens to me, you should also have talent. Song Liang asked again, what did the system say to you? Have you ever been asked to do any tasks? Bai Cheng hesitated a bit, lowered his eyes, and spoke softly. I didn't say anything, I just reminded you not to tell you about the system. I didn't want to say much earlier, but if I didn't say it, I would be sent to the North Town governor. Just a moment ago, I was just trying to scare you. Can I really send you there? But why can't I know about this? Is there still some kind of competitive relationship between you and me? After Song Liang finished speaking, a voice rang in Bai Cheng's mind. Can you guess all of this? So strong. This is the system that Bai Cheng mentioned just now. The system let out a sigh. It's too strong. It's so easy for her system to follow her in the future. Why did I just assign it to such an unlucky person? Bai Cheng rolled his eyes and said, I can hear it all. The system explained somewhat humbly. I didn't mean that either, it's just the host. This person is too smart, why don't you give up? You can't win against her. Upon hearing this, Bai Cheng was delighted. Can we give up? That's great. He had no choice but to do this terrible task. System. Of course, you can, but you will always be trapped in the book and never return to the real world. Bai Cheng is speechless. Once he gives up, he will be trapped here for the rest of his life, right? The system added another sentence. Once you give up and the task fails, the system will automatically determine that Song Liang's task is successful and she can successfully return. Upon hearing this news, Bai Cheng thundered and patted his chest, saying, don't worry, I will definitely work hard to complete the task. It's not important whether or not to win. It's better to let him die than to live alone in this era. Once Song Liang returns, it means that this dynasty will no longer have anyone who can protect him. How could he go to battle with the male protagonist Qi Chen, a fake Yuhang, who is powerless and has little ability? In this comparison, he felt that it was not a big deal to work harder to complete the task. Song Liang stared quietly at Bai Cheng, although he couldn't hear his thoughts, he could probably guess that Bai Cheng was talking to the system at this moment. After realizing this, Bai Cheng quickly shook his head and said, no, 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 how could it be? The two of us should work together to deal with Qi Chen. How could there be a competitive relationship? Really? Song Liang had doubts in his heart. She always felt that Bai Cheng was hiding something from him. What are you deceiving me for? Bai Cheng quickly changed the topic. By the way, the system just told me that our tasks are the same, both dealing with Qi Chen. Really? Song Liang once again harbored doubts. Bai Chengxin swore confidently, really. I swear. Otherwise, how could I have a system without you? Our goals are the same. As long as we kill Qi Chen, we can return to the real world. Song Liang stared at him and said, if you're lying to me, I'll send you to the Imperial prison. Bai Cheng answered sharply, there is no empty statement. At this moment, his system let out a TSK. Lying is refreshing, and a man's mouth is really scary. Bai Cheng ignored it and continued to brainwash Song Liang, if you don't want to kill him, I'll do it. You just need to cooperate with me and don't convict me then. Song Liang let out a thud in his heart, are you going to kill Qi Chen? Why did this little villain have a murderous heart towards the male lead again? He is a dedicated villain, constantly thinking of either framing or killing the male lead. Bai Cheng said, if we want to go back, Qi Chen must die. After all, he is just a character in the book, not a flesh and blood person. Whether he dies or lives is just a matter of words to us in the real world. Song Liang answered seriously, I have never treated people in this world like paper people. The world we are in may not be real to us, but it is their whole world. Although their lives can be determined word by word, for them, all feelings are not something that can be covered by word. They have a real life, real joys and sorrows, real love and hate. They have their own lives in this world covered by words. However, Bai Cheng had no understanding of this. For him, paper people were paper people, which was not important to him. He only cared about whether he could successfully leave. So, you don't want to complete this task anymore. I will do my best and listen to fate. It is my principle not to determine my future path based on the fate of others. This is Song Liang's answer to Bai Cheng. She naturally wanted to return to the real world with family and friends, and various entertainment activities. But this should not be above the life and death of others. End of this chapter.